Welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered Romance Nights. We are your hosts, Kolleen.
And I'm Marjorie. Today's episode, we are going to be chatting about The Deal by Elle Kennedy. This is book one in the series Off Campus. So the story is about Hannah Wells and Garrett Graham. Hannah is a music college student. And then Garrett is a professional hockey player, college hockey player, captain. And they're both juniors. And I guess what it is like Garrett needed a tutor and Hannah was the tutor that he chose. Like basically trying to convince to tutor him.
Yeah. Whether she likes it or not, she's tutoring.
Pretty. Yeah. He was persistent.
Yeah.
Very persistent.
So overall, before we get into it, what would you say, how did you feel about this book?
I think we kind of touched base with it, but it was a good book. I liked it. It's definitely more contemporary than like the dark hockey romances that I really enjoy reading. It's light. It touched base a little bit of like past trauma on both characters. I did enjoy it. There was like funny banters. I mean, would I say it was a 5-star for me? No, because I always tend to like dark romance.
Right.
And majority of the hockey romances that I've read are always dark. So I kind of look for that bully type romance. Like which it wasn't here, I'm not saying, but it's like it's more of like a 4-star read for me. But it was still good. I think I read it in one sitting, so it's not like bad. But yeah. I mean, how about you?
I really liked it. I went in with this preconceived notion that this was more like a YA. And I was like, I don't want a young adult. I want to see some action. I need spice. Mm-hmm. But I was pleasantly surprised. You know me. I like things that's going to put me a little bit in my feels. I'm like you, where a lot of times, more often than not, I need something dark. I need something really fucked up to happen. But I knew this wasn't going to be it, and I really liked it. For me, I would probably give it 4.5 stars.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, what is YA anyway? Is it more like the backdoor?
Like young adult, like you're not going to really see any
backdoor
age. Yeah.
Or is it black? Fade to black, not
Fade
back.
Black. Backdoor, where are you at?
Friend, fade to black.
There's no backdoor.
Yeah, there's no backdoor. It's fade to black. I'm sorry. See, this is why I can't do like contemporary or young adult because the stuff that I read is just By the way, if you know me personally, please don't watch this or listen to this. Just don't. Like I said, when I was like getting ready, my mom was like asking, "What is a podcast?" And it's like, just say yes. It's not for you. And then of course my brother's like, like she does all her book stuff, and I'm like, excuse me, like. How do you know what I'm doing with my book? Are you like on my TikTok page? Like, anyway.
That's funny. I'm very different with my mom. She's very aware of what I read. I tell my mom everything. So, that's shit for me.
Right. Well, I think before we get back to The Deal.
I know, sorry.
She, like those Harlequin pocketbook, like the ones at the grocery stores.
Yes.
So those are the ones that she loves to read. And that's
Fabio.
Kind of like, like the Fabio guy. And that's how I kind of like started with romance because I would read whatever she was reading. But we won't talk about it. And I think it's a culture thing that we just didn't read about it. But, obviously the stuff that I'm reading now, it's like, I wouldn't recommend it.
No.
And like I said, like, please turn away. If I know you in real life, just don't. Just skip it. Like, I love you for like wanting to support me, but like you
from afar.
Okay, so tropes for this one, like it is hockey / sports. I thought it was more like friends to lovers. Like, yes, they didn't kind of in the beginning. She didn't want to like do anything with him, but they did build a friendship to where
it was like, we won't say enemies because they weren't enemies. It was like dislike on her part, at least.
Right.
But
She
you're
would,
right. It was more of a friends.
I think it's just because like she has this preconceived notion of
Right.
who he was, and her type is like, very different. And, but I did, it's not my favorite trope, friends to lovers, because sometimes I feel like it's such a slow burn when it's like that. It's like, when is it going to happen kind of thing. But I did enjoy it that they did have that foundation
Right.
of, friendship, especially with her experience from her ex-friend. So I did like that. And then, of course, it's a college romance. They're both junior. I think this is the only time, like, college and high school are the only time where I like, the 2-year age gap, or they're the same age. But for the most part, I love an age gap. Like,
right. I know.
yeah.
Because a lot of other types of romance books, that's the highlight. And this was a good, it was good they were the same age. So I agree with that.
And yeah,
I'm
like,
trying
and the friends to
anything
lovers
else.
didn't bother me as much. But
No, because like you were saying before, the banter was really good.
like, they're both sarcastic, so it is funny when they're bantering, and it never failed. Like, they always have some comeback when they're, trying to, quote and unquote, like, pissing each other off, kind of like trying to make angry, but it's not as, bad. Like, like there are other where they're childhood friends kind of thing, and I'm just like, okay, can we move forward?
Right, yeah. You already know each other. Let's just get to it.
Yes, yeah. So this one is like, it's almost like opposite attract.
Yes.
Because she definitely doesn't, how do you call that? Like, she doesn't really like what he likes, like him, it's all about hockey, and he's very outgoing because he's popular and stuff, and she's more introverted and
artsy and studious.
Yeah, artsy, yeah. And she pretty much kept to herself except for her friend group. So.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's another trope, opposites attract for sure. That's a good point out. Now, you already said the characters. So again, the MMC is Garrett Graham and the FMC is Hannah Wells. And just side note on that, there is a second generation book I found out. Yeah, so it's good that we'll get to see a little bit of them. So it's an unlikely pairing. She's got her sights set on someone else.
Right.
And he's
weird.
I feel like I've seen a movie like this where the girl likes someone else and the popular, if it's even a thing in college.
Well, they're both kind of popular though, like MMC and then the crush that she was crushing on. But I felt like it's almost like, because we only saw her point of view for her crush, we don't know his point of view, the crush, but it's almost like she's so obsessed, like she created this illusion about this guy without ever like talking to him, and then once she starts talking to him, she doesn't know how to communicate, kind of thing.
Right.
Like she gets flustered or just or like there's that one scene at a party where he talked to her, and to her, it's like, oh, we're dating kind of thing. Like, wait, what? Like, because like then she saw him like talking to another girl, like flirtatiously, and she got pissed off about it. Like, you guys are not in a relationship.
But it turns out he was a hoe. So
pretty much, yeah. So again,
cover.
I think it's like it's all in her. Like she built it up all in her head. At some like, when I was reading that, at some point, I was just like, I feel like she's gonna get disappointed once she sees that he's more of a player than like what he's or what she thought he is. I don't think he portrayed himself like any different. I think he's just like flirtatious.
Yeah.
But in her head, he flirted with me. There is a thing. Like there's a deep connection in there, which it was a little bit frustrating for me because I was just like, how is there a deep connection when you guys like just chatted for 5 minutes in the hallway of a house?
I know. Oh, that's
in front of a bathroom. In front of a bathroom. There's no deep connection. You like, if you, when you read her and Graham's banter, they're actually getting to know each other more than that 5-minute conversation that in her head he's in love with her. It's like,
and what's interesting is Justin, that was the crush's name.
yeah, I forgot his
I
name.
feel like he only wanted her
at some
when
point
he thought he couldn't have her.
Right. Yeah, he was more like, he was more full on, like trying to get with her. Well, not like super full on where there's a love triangle, but like when he sees her with him, like in the parties and stuff, like then he's like mean mugging Graham or Garrett, whatever. They're both first names. I'm sorry. But yeah, like he was kind of mean mugging, like territorial, when really their connection was that 5-minute conversation, and then after that nothing happened until he asked her out, but she ended up canceling anyway. So it wasn't, so there's no love triangle. I wouldn't say that there was a love triangle.
No, I would have liked to have seen that date happen.
More like drama
and almost like a complete letdown for her. And
yeah, so that
we're
way
going back to Garrett and like leaning on him a little bit, but I don't know, that's just me.
Yeah, like I think it would have been like a better like drama kind of thing, like a little bit drama.
Because yeah,
I felt like as far as drama in this whole book, they're almost like they drop the drama like a hot potato, like brushing it off almost. Same. Like like this. Okay, so I don't think we mentioned it, but like Hannah was sexually abused from, you know, when she was a teenager, which is kind of her like almost the reason why she doesn't date. Well, not almost, but it is
drink.
Yes, she doesn't drink, and that's why she doesn't party, or you know, she doesn't know if she should even date because she doesn't know if she, you know, because of her ex-boyfriend too, like that experience.
Oh, right. Yes.
It's almost like it's brushed under the rug. Like she talked about it, and I know she's healing from it, but you can kind of tell she's not over it because she's still in the process of dealing with it. But it's almost like brushed under the rug. I felt like that plot point for her
you
would have been better.
I could see where you would think that, and I guess I was believed that it was 4 years later, and she already said, I worked through this, I went to therapy. It's not as big of an issue. But
it is an issue for her, intimacy-wise.
Yeah,
it was an issue.
But she didn't like spaz out the first time.
No, it wasn't like she's spazzing. Yeah, it wasn't like she's spazzing out, but it's like you can kind of tell that she has an intimacy issue.
Yeah.
But, you know, like to the point, like, hey, let's just have sex and then I can get over this kind of thing. So it still affects her. So that could have been a character arc, because like, so when, you know, one of the best friends that lied on their oath, when she saw him at that guy, she froze up. So like, for me, if it's you're kind of healed, like completely, like you don't care about them, you wouldn't freeze up as much, obviously.
That's right. I did forget about.
Yeah, and then she also doesn't go home to visit her parents. So, like, she avoids the place.
I wouldn't either.
Well, yeah, I mean, she avoids, but then if, you know, your parents can't afford to fly to her aunt, you know, like, I mean, I get it, like, where she's coming from, but she's avoiding it, obviously. I mean, even if the guy is not there. And I also feel like I was waiting to see if there was something that's going to happen once Garrett finds out, like, that, you know, justice wasn't really served or whatever, like something would have happened.
It wasn't that kind of book. And I think that's where the dark romance in us wants that.
Right. And that's like
violence.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that's why for me it wasn't like a 5-star, because I felt like there were like some plot points that you mentioned, but then we dropped them like a hot potato. Like, just we mentioned it, but then it's not important enough for like character arc to resolve it. So for me,
for that book, that type of book.
Yeah, if you, I guess, as a reader, not saying I'm bashing the book, but as a reader, if you weren't going to resolve those, I would rather like not include those storyline.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
that's just me.
See that. Yeah,
because when you're introducing some storylines, I want it to be resolved by the end of the book.
Now, his issue was his abusive dad. We learn later on that he's abusive to his live-in girlfriend. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Now, in the books that you and I normally read, he would have been dead.
Right.
He would have been like in a basement.
Again, it's like,
but it was just done with you. I've set my boundaries, and then that was the resolution for him.
Yeah. I mean, eventually he did cut him off because he doesn't, he's not, paying for his.
That was killer. So
the reason that he wasn't like cut off with his dad was because the dad's still paying for his, tuition, he has an allowance until he gets his trust fund.
Right. And that's
when he cut it off. Yeah. There was a third act breakup in this.
I was going to just bring that up, but it was weak at best.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't like that. Yeah. I think like when I read that, because I had a feeling, I was like, it's going to come up. It's going to come up.
Yeah.
That it's going to do something like blackmail her, whatnot. And then it's going to come up that he's still paying for him and he's going to cut it off. And then she's going to feel guilty and not have a backbone. And instead of like talking to Graham, because when you read, not Graham, Garrett.
Garrett, I know what you read.
When you read Garrett's point of view, it was, he already has a plan about it. He was just waiting for his 21st birthday. So he has a plan. So I think it's more of like communication for her. It was like, for me, it was an unnecessary breakup because even with Garrett,
it was one chapter. It was
fine. And Garrett was like, we're not really broken up. It's just in your head that we're broken up. Like he got drunk. Yeah. I mean, I love their banter. I also like their, his friend group are funny. Her friend group are like also funny. So I like that they kind of merged their friend group towards the end.
Right.
I do like when she went to their locker room because she was so mad that nobody could ask her out. Yeah. And everybody was like naked.
Yep.
And they're just like, whatever. And she like just started like, I don't know where to look at. It's all dicks hanging around. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to still on the book, but what's your opinion? So this was the redesign cover. I know you are a Kindle reader, but cover wise, did you prefer this one or the other one?
The other one was the girl one, right?
Yeah. You like illustrated or?
Well, right now I like illustrated. I mean, but the girl cover was a good one too.
Loved it.
Yeah, I don't remember what it is, but like I think that would have been better because she doesn't even know how to skate. I don't think there was a scene where she skated anywhere.
Did he take her skating?
No, I don't think she did. She watched his games, but they never had like where she went on the ice. She went on their locker room. That's about it. But like actually like skated, like had a date that where they skated, nothing like that.
You know what? I read so many books in such a short period of time. I could be confusing it.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, there's other books that have done that where they skated. So for me, that illustrated cover kind of like, well, I mean, they didn't really go on a skating day. I mean, it would have been better if she was just standing on ice, like singing. Not that she sang in front of it. It's just like, yes, it was a sports romance, and he was like very hockey, and stuff. But it also about her singing career, kind of thing. Her singing,
it could have been back to back on the cover. Him holding, a hockey
like
stick,
half
and
of
she
it
could have been holding books or like a page music notes on it, like, because
Yeah.
they weren't immediate friends, so it could have
Right.
been like a back-to-back type thing. I don't know. Look at me.
Well, no. So like I've seen those where it's like half would be, like the ice and half would be hers. And then, yeah, the back to back, that would have been make more sense. There's
Yeah.
no, like, she was never on the skating rink.
Did you happen to look at any of the reviews?
No.
I
didn't.
just happened to look.
To me, if I looked at the reviews, I usually go to the negative ones, especially if it's like, so with this one, I've seen it on TikTok and I've seen excerpts. So I was just like, okay, that's interesting. I knew I was going to read it. But if it's somebody who were like, hey, try to read this, like especially on dark romances, and then I go to the review, I look at the negative and I'm just like,
well, that's what I did. And for someone who didn't like, if I don't like a book, I don't write War and Peace on it. This isn't going to be, this person wrote the longest review I've ever seen.
So you know that they read the whole thing.
Shreds.
Yeah.
Because of her feminist views, stating the way, so like the scene at the party where Garrett knows that he's got her. He sees that she's looking at Justin. Now in his mind, he's formulating a plan and he's saying, oh, you like him? You'll never get him. Not the way that you are. Like, and yes, okay, it was fucked up. If someone said that to me, I would be like, oh, really? And I would be shooting back with all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't, when I read it, I wasn't like, oh my God, like, how could this author write something like that? I think people forget this is fiction.
Right.
You have to have conflict and the resolution for a good story. He didn't say she was a piece of shit or anything like that. He just said
more of just like
interested in you.
Yeah, which technically he wasn't until she started hanging out with Garrett. Because again, she wouldn't even come up to talk to him in their class. They have a class together and she keeps just staring at him like a creeper. Because even her friend that sits beside her, like, hey, maybe you should talk to him instead of just fucking staring like a creeper over there.
Yeah.
Like she would like space out and then like just stare at him. And then, like he would try to smile at her and she doesn't know what to do. Like, well, yeah,
right.
now nobody's going to want to talk to you when it's at that point. Let's be realistic. If they're going to do that, like,
review.
Right. Yeah.
It was a lot of internalization because this person said, well, I guess at the time, she's like, well, I'm the same age as these characters are. Bitch, they're not real.
They're not real.
They're not real. And
I mean, have you read, like, if they've read high school bully romance? Majority
I don't know.
Of these high schoolers don't act like they're in high school. I mean, there are times where they're like super petty. It's like, okay, I get it. They're high schoolers. They're going to be like petty as fuck, But majority of the time they act like they're fucking 24-year-olds, 25, like the way they act, especially like they're rich and all that stuff in the book. The way they act, they're like not in high school.
Yeah. But it was just interesting. Like,
then I look at myself like, yeah, because then I'm like thinking to myself, like, well, I was in high school. Yes, there was like pettiness in me, but I never acted like that. Like, I know everything, or like, oh, I'm so like I would just kill somebody. Like they were so comfortable with doing that type of stuff. So it's like they're more like, I think they make it high school because like bully romance is not gonna work if they're past college. Right. It's just not gonna work.
And you know what? It's like these people, these are experiences you may have had, but this is what the author wrote. And if it doesn't jive with you, don't finish reading it. And it's just like, if you're going to give a bad review, I feel like make it because there were plot holes. Make it because of whatever. It was poorly written, stuff like that. Not because you didn't like the content. That's really good. That's all I'm going to say.
At some point, like, if you're going to do that, you just write your own story that would, like, have everything that you like. Kind of.
All your feministic views. Have at it.
One of the things is, well, and some, if you're reading romance, majority of the time, okay, I'm not saying all of it, majority of the time, the female main character is not super like strong. Like
Not at first.
yeah,
No.
at first it's like they start like this, and then they meet the guy, the MMC, and that MMC brings it out of them. They're not
Right.
like strong right away, unless it's if you read like like my favorite one, Mindfuck series. She's already a strong character, but also circumstances put her up there to where like when you first read the book, when it starts, she's already strong character. But then you find out her past. She wasn't that strong when, she was naive. She was like innocent when
Right.
in her past. But majority of FMCs, they're not super strong, badass female characters right away.
No.
They get to there. I mean, and then there are some that's just like they're
And
not
the
going to
two
be strong.
characters usually grow together. So you
Mhm.
got a strong male who usually has traumatic past of some kind, and they
Mhm.
kind of balance each other out. And I feel like that's what happened with Hannah and Garrett.
They balance each other out.
And they kind of healed a little bit together.
Mhm.
I mean,
They did.
this was
I
a
mean, like
nice story.
yeah, him, it was more like his temper.
Right.
And he's scared that, he's going to be like his dad, which he wasn't. Like, and him, like that, him beating the other guy, the best friend of that thing. It wasn't like because he had anger issues. It's more of like, that's my girl. She never really got the justice that she deserves, for what happened to her. I'm pissed, Like, so it wasn't like a spur in the moment, like,
Yeah.
sort of punch you, And with her, she became more confident with herself. Like, especially with being in a relationship, she was more confident. But that's because he, made her feel like, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. It was just like basically finding the right person
Yeah.
to,
I wish I could think of that movie. It was like the same thing. He wasn't hockey. I don't know. The guy was something else. But, they ended up, happily ever after at the end. It was cute.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting because this is going to be a TV show. So it's going to be interesting. I mean,
I did not know that.
they're adapting it for a TV show on Amazon Prime, I think. If I remember correctly. Been a while. We talked about it. That's why we said we're going to read it.
We talked about it.
Yeah, I know you're not that old. So
No,
I just like amnesia.
Sometimes I don't listen properly.
Yeah, no, we talked about it. But yeah, but I would say
I
like
wonder how it's going to be. Like, do you
well, I
think?
mean, it's not like dark romance. So this
No.
it's more
How are they gonna
realistic.
break it up?
Well, it's a series, so I'm guessing one
that's
series
what I'm
would be the
thinking.
first, and then
Like, with
because
Theo?
because the whole series for this, the first one, it's Garrett and his friends. It's all their stories.
Okay, so they're like maybe one season for each couple, and I don't know. It'll be interesting. Or do they kind of mix? I don't know. Guess we'll see.
Well, we haven't read the other 3 books.
No, and I purposely didn't read the next book because I didn't want to confuse anything.
Yeah.
I waited.
I mean, I will read the other 4 books in a couple months. I have other things that I need to finish first.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I will definitely. I feel like right now I'm in my contemporary like romance era where it's all nicey nice and yes, emotional and angsty. I'm not in my violent era.
Yeah, I can't. It's just I can't do them back to back. As good as this was, like I said, it was a 4-star for me. I can't do them back to back just because of like I need some violence in there. I'm sorry. Like to me, it's like it's hockey, but I think it's because C.R. Jane ruined me for hockey romance. Okay, like her hockey romance are top tier for me. Like they're dark and it's just, but it kind of makes sense because the hockey players are aggressive. Like they always like get into fights in there. So I kind of like that. I mean, I wouldn't say like Garrett is like a golden retriever. I wouldn't say that quite. I mean, he's kind of sweet and funny.
He's not a pushover, though, that's for sure.
Yeah,
He's
yeah, he wasn't.
persistent. I think he comes off, even though this isn't true about him, he comes off like the golden boy, like privileged, and I had everything handed to me, when in reality, that's not exactly how it went down.
No, you have to like read it. And, you know, the fact that he actually has a job during the summer, that, you know, that's what. I did like the fact that he got his inheritance and he got to stick it to his dad. Like, here's the check. Here's the check of what you paid for. Now we're even.
How was her school paid for? Did she have a scholarship?
She has a scholarship, and then her parents help her. That's why her parents can't leave the small town. You know, one thing I wished was, since Garrett is kind of is rich and all that stuff, like he could have, you know, like the swoop in, like, oh, I'm gonna help your parents like pay off their mortgage and stuff so they can sell the house and then they can leave that town and they're not stuck there.
Yeah.
So that way he can see them all more often, kind of thing. Again, it's those things that we see on, like, you know, like the Billionaire Romance, or when, even if they're high schooler, one is always rich. He will do stuff for, you know, for the female main character. Yeah, I mean, he was rich technically, because he did say that his inheritance was going to be able to like provide for him for a couple years before he needed to have a job.
But did he, and I, again, because I can't remember shit, I'm pretty sure he ended up, there was an epilogue. Did it say whether or not he got a professional, the NHL?
No, because they haven't graduated yet.
Oh, really?
They haven't. They're still junior year.
Well, we didn't. Sometimes I like to fast forward 5 years.
I don't think it fast forward.
Oh shit! There's something on my book. Now tell me that's what you get. That's what you get for.
I'm not gonna say anything, because no matter what, you're still gonna read your book.
Epilogue.
I don't think it did. I think it just jumped to like
bonus scene. Hannah's, no.
No, it didn't fast forward. I think it was still. I think they just finished the hockey season, and then she finished the, you know, she won the thing, and then they were kind of like just hanging out.
Well, we can pretend. You know how I like to always take it the next 10 steps?
Yeah, and then you're gonna read the other stuff, and then we get to the ending of the series, because there's the 5th book called The Legacy, which is all of them, like a novella about all of them.
That he went.
Then you're gonna be like disappointed.
Paid off the parents' house. She became a professional singer, and it was all nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know. I think I have a specific MMCs that I like how they are, because he was very possessive. I mean, he's not obsessive, but he was very possessive of her. I'm actually surprised that his best friend is pining after her.
Right?
Which was like, to me, I was like, that's kind of weird, because they don't really talk to each other that much.
Right.
Like,
I mean, if we're not turning this into a throuple, then shut up.
Like, yes, he was attracted to her because he would see her but they would barely interact because she's always in his bedroom because they're tutoring. They're having tutor session. And then once they kind of started dating or whatever, they're friends with benefits and then became dating, I don't understand why he would fall for her.
That, I will say that if I had to pick something negative, for lack of a better word, that would be it for me. Like, that irritated me. Like, I'm like, that was so not necessary.
Right. And then him was like, you're best friends and you're okay with it? Because, like, he would always, like, see him staring at her with longing. I mean, and to the point that she noticed it, too. Like, yeah, it's like, and she even says, like, is this going to be weird? You know, this is going to be, like, awkward. Which is, it could be awkward, especially if she is always staying there and they live together, you know, like, they're best friends. So I was just like, you know, like, what? It's like out of left field.
I agree.
Like, I would have seen it more. I would have understood it more with Justin.
Yeah.
Because he did pursue her. And then when they were like on that break, he was still like talking to her until she like set him straight, like, no, we're just going to be friends and stuff. Like, I would see it more with Justin. But then after that, like, as soon as she said that, oh, we're just going to be friends, like, okay, whatever. I'm going to hoe it up over there. like I got over her quickly. But yet the best friend is like pining for her. Like, what?
Yeah, that was
like the most interaction that they have was like when she cooked the lasagna for them. Like I feel like you can't pine for somebody that you don't really know that well. Like
Mary is chef. It's all about the food. I think it's misplaced affection. I think those are some of the traits he probably wants, but it just the way the emotions were so like they were too much.
It was weird because it's like at first he was like, are you dating her kind of thing? And he's like, no, she's still off limits. Like, even if we weren't dating, she's off limits. He pretty much said that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, why are you still... What?
That's like, weird.
Well, yeah. And then remember, he kind of got mad for Garrett when he found out about the date that she's had with the date that she's supposed to have with Justin.
Yeah.
He was the one who told Garrett, like, I'm mad for you. And I'm like, okay, you're mad for him, but yet you are falling for him?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
You should have at the very least, they should have maybe like hung out or like had a deep conversation. Like then I could almost give it merit.
Yeah, they had like almost like one or two sentences, like, oh, hey, how are you? Whatever. That's it, kind of thing. And then, she cooked the lasagna for Garrett. But then she just made a big batch because there's 4 of them in the house,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. But I mean, it was more of their guy friend that's a chef that's like, oh, I love you kind of thing. Like, because, this is an awesome lasagna and stuff. But that other friend, I was just like, it was like, every time Garrett mentions it's like, if he wasn't my best friend, I'm going to fucking stop or punch. Like, to that point where like, I'm going to fucking, like, he needs to stop. Because, okay, so remember when she went to the locker room and she was like, oh, penises or whatever. He could have like done something. Logan was there. That's his name, Logan. Like, he could have like hit on her, but he was just like, oh no, he's in the shower.
Yeah, that was poorly executed.
I think it's like, it was not necessary. Like, it's almost like showing that, oh, he's very possessive of her, but he wasn't going to do anything because they're best friends. Which I've seen it done before, where the guy is super possessive and the best friends are like just riling him up, like the MMC, and and the MMC would be like, punch them and whatever, like off limits or like whack their hands or like enough touching her kind of thing. But you can definitely tell he's possessive, but they're just like giving him shit. This one is like totally in love. Like, you can say like that there's totally in love because according to Garrett, there's longing in his eyes. So I'm like, and it makes me wonder, makes me nervous when they interpret this in the TV show. Would they make it more dramatic than what they're supposed to?
They'll have to, because to read it on paper, it's different to then see it with your eyes, because they'll be like, what? Is he mentally ill? Is that like what it is? Like, it's got to be something here.
Well, but the thing is too, is like, even with when you read the book, it's out of left field. It's not even like...
He's the friend that's always hooking up with anybody and everybody, right? He was the
They're
one...
They're all hooking up with anybody.
One worse than the other.
No, that was Dean.
So then it really doesn't make sense, because I could see it being like, okay, I
he would always have like people, 2 girls,
but I always wanted a relationship.
Yeah, no, okay. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, it was a weird, out of left field kind of thing. Like, but he was also hooking up anyway. But like, yeah,
he's the next book. I'm just, me, because I'm
Logan,
because I'm the worst.
It should show it in there. Which one?
Yeah, because I'm a cheater. Oh,
I mean, I have
just
the book too.
Grace. It was Grace. Without Grace.
I don't think they've introduced the FMCs for the other guys. I think that we only got introduced to men.
The next book is The Mistake, and it's Logan and Grace.
Don't know who Grace is because I don't think we've met Grace. Oh,
yeah, what was her? Who?
Do you remember her, the guy that she was supposed to duet with?
Oh.
And then MJ. I wanted to smack MJ. And then she's like,
let's be friends.
Like, we have to be friends still, right? Like, bitch, you literally kicked her off because you have, like, googly eyes with this guy who pretty much just fucking used you to get his way. And then the moment that he got his way, fucking dumps you.
And guess what?
He didn't even win. Yeah, he didn't even win the scholarship. And then you're just like, oh, I'm sorry. Now we can be friends again. Like, no, that's her, like, that's part of her, like, scholarship, part of the school stuff for them to just drop her 4 weeks before this stuff. And basically she has to start over. Like,
if anybody should have got punched in the face, it was him.
Well, yeah.
Where was Garrett on that?
No, he did.
He didn't punch him, though, did he?
He did, I think. Yeah, it was him, I think. Or is it another guy? I don't remember. But Garrett punched somebody besides the best friend of the asshole.
Mm.
No, I think he did. Because
he did?
I think, I don't know. I know he almost did, but I think she pulled him back and says he's not worth it.
Yeah, I don't think he got punched because he's the type of little bitch that would have sued him.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, he's a dick.
Yeah, like, that was, I saw that coming a mile away. Now, that's one thing I'll say about the book. It was very predictable. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm okay with that. I know what types of books I go to for mystery and jaw-dropping suspense. Mm-hmm. I knew this was going to be very predictable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I kind of, like, saw it. And even when she was talking about, like, like the sexual abuse that happened, and before she even revealed that they got away with it, I knew that they got away with it. Like, I knew it because just from, like, her, like, saying, like, oh, I blame myself for my parents, like, being stuck in that town and whatnot. So it's like, oh, okay, well, they got away with it. And I do feel like that if we, since she talks about it and there's a reason why she doesn't come home, I felt like there should have been a resolution for that. But that's just more. Because, I mean, it was a big part of the reason why she doesn't go home was because they're, they're the town pariah or whatever. But I wish that there was a resolution. Like, Garrett swoops in and stuff, but then again, like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I could see that being a problem for a lot of readers.
Yeah, because
it wasn't that big of an issue, but for me,
for me, it wasn't like it was an issue, but I think it got talked about quite a bit. So, I think for me it should have been a resolution. And then, she sees one of the guys at that hockey game, so. It's almost like for me that there should have been more resolution for it.
At least one thing that I thought was going to happen that didn't was when he saw her and he took off out the door, a part of me was like, so maybe he regrets how things went down and maybe she would have gotten some closure with an apology. But no, he was like, she's a hoe.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, that's why I said, like, oh, I wish there was more resolution.
Yeah.
Because, she just, like, basically told Garrett, like, she's a hoe. She was asking for it. No, not really. You're just a fucking asshole who lied for your friend.
Right, right.
Like, yeah. To me, that's why I said, it's like, I would have rather that, I've been in therapy, so I got over it. That's why I don't really, like, it's not like she's afraid of men in general. She wasn't. Like, obviously, she did do her work. She healed a little bit. But we could have just ended it at that. And then, like, more of her issue was, like, intimacy issues, which Garrett did help with her. That's it. And that would have been fine. But then, they kept talking about it, and then all of a sudden, and then we see that guy
Yeah.
alive. And then there was again, he got punched. We didn't he got suspended for 1 game, and the other guy's pretty much happily ever after wherever he is. There's no karma.
I get it. Yeah. I like I said, I bet you that was an issue for a lot of readers because Garrett had his closure. He got his.
He did.
And she just, unless there was an underlying lesson to be learned for victims, because I think we find a lot of times women who are victims of sexual abuse or what have you, they don't always get the justice. So,
But
maybe, I don't know. I'm reaching.
Devil's advocate, when you're reading a fiction, you want them to get the justice. It's kind of like if you have that type of traumatic experience, which I feel like majority of the dark romance reader have that, they get those kind of justice, the healing part, because they see the FMC gets that resolve, that resolution where justice was served. She got, the bad guy got what was coming for them.
Yeah. That's okay. I think in those books, that's okay.
I wasn't expecting Garrett's gonna fucking kill somebody, but
no, that would
right. That would have been more left field. But he was rich, or he is rich. He could have done some, those kind of those grand gestures from a guy that you look for, kind of thing.
And that usually,
I sucker punched that guy. He wasn't even the main guy. He was just more I just lied for the main guy,
It would have been better if it was the main guy.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
He made some slick remark. Then he gets punched. Then you're maybe you could have, it would have been, okay, he didn't go to jail, but you just got his nose ripped off. So.
Right, there was that satisfaction of I can't do a lot of things, but here, that's my girl that you're talking about, kind of thing.
Right.
But it was another side character that's just it left you also he gets punched, but not the actual culprit. It's just little things. Again, I know it's not a dark romance, and it wasn't gonna be how they resolve it in the dark romance genre, but it's still they talked about it. It was in the story. It's part of her character arc, her character development. Then it should have been resolved. That's just me. People don't have to agree with me, and that's fine. That's just me. It's when I'm reading, don't be introducing plot lines and then you're just gonna leave them there and be wait, what happened to the other, that part, which is it's just a trivial thing, not really, because it's part of her healing process, Again, she did say that I moved on, whatever, I don't have to. It's well, your parents still are dealing with it.
But that's, I don't know Elle Kennedy. I don't know. Really? This is the only book I've read. If she's the type to tend to write more realistic things, then I can accept that. And you're helping people, women, men, whoever, know that sometimes the healing has to take place from within, and you're not going to get the last, I don't want to say last laugh, but you're not going to get the justice that's deserved. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm reading a fiction, so I like.
I know.
I like all those conflicts be resolved, and for me, it's I felt bad for the parents because I feel and she did, in her inner monologue, she did say she got to get away and move on and heal outside of that town. She's not always reminded. Well, I feel bad for her parents because the parents are pretty much dealing with the aftermath. Still dealing with the aftermath.
Well, in my head, they're not there anymore.
Right. Pretend that they're not there. But I think when you're reading it and then there was no resolution or nothing almost nothing happened. It's kind of but I want them to be out of that stupid town.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think we skipped over favorite scene and we went right into likes and dislikes.
I don't even know what my favorite scene is.
I don't either.
It's not bad. It's nothing stood out for me to where.
Yeah. It wasn't that type of book.
Yeah. Again, if there was like a grand gesture that she did against the dad, that he did against the people that wronged her, I think I would have like said those are my favorite scenes, because it's like that ultimate, like, I'm showing you I love you kind of thing.
Yeah. I struggled with this one because I thought of all the different scenes, and the book was good to me as a whole,
Mm-hmm. I agree.
and that's just about it. There
That's
wasn't
it.
anything crazy. So
Right. It was like enjoyable,
yes, there you go.
but
That's
like,
good here.
would I like be raving about it like other people that read this type of genre only? No, because I have other books that I would rave about.
Yeah,
Because
I think
it's not my genre that I read.
right.
Um, did you rate the spice scale on it? I didn't, because I was just like, I don't know.
You know what? I did because I wrote this down because you know me, I have to write shit
Mhm.
down or else it didn't happen. Um,
I mean, like,
I feel like it wasn't very high.
no, I don't think so. I mean, it
Two
was
and a
like,
half. It was 2.5. Like it was kind of middle of the road. I mean, yes, you had a couple of good scenes, but yeah, for me it was 2.5. And I read it in between reading Rena Kent, which was good.
yeah.
You know what? Because I needed a minute. I
Oh,
needed to
yeah,
come
you like to take a
down.
break with those.
I
I
need
don't.
to
I like them.
for my
I mean,
mental.
right now I'm taking a break because I have other things to do, but like I have other things to read, which I'm kind of like, but I want to go back into it
Yeah.
because
So
I
this for
wanted to
me
read them
was
back to back.
good. This was a good in between. And maybe I'll just keep the rest of her series like that. Like I'll read a couple of really dark ones and
Yeah.
then sprinkle in her.
I think
But
in spice for me, nothing like to rave about. So
no.
it's just, I think again, it's like we all have different spice scale, but I think it's like the dirtier. I think that's when it's like more that hits for me, like the spice. Like obviously, it's not like I'm redoing this shit, but yeah. Like I can tell that there was chemistry between the two of them. It's just more like once the spice. It took a while before the spice scene, anyway.
At least halfway through, at
Yeah,
the
almost
least.
halfway through, and then it wasn't even like full on. Like it was oral. So I'm not saying like, oh wait, is it even oral? No, it wasn't even. It was more like fondling first, and
Yeah.
then they had to plan to do oral, and then it was like just fucking go at it. Like
Lesson 1, lesson
right,
2.
yeah, pretty much. And I was like, it's not like they're both virgins. It's like, what are we doing here? I mean,
Yeah.
yes, I get it. It was like, well, no, actually, I don't get it because she was ready.
He didn't believe she was, and he didn't
Yeah,
want to go into this and have her like freak
but she
out.
was ready because she was like, kept like pushing his limits. And he was just like, no, let's take it slow. I'm like, dude,
I know.
we're at 50%. And then once they finally do it, and once they finally actually do it, it was like, what is this slow crap?
Oh, I like that sometimes.
Yeah. I like the slow things when from the beginning they were always like full on
Yeah. Okay.
like almost BDSM type shit. And then they're like, okay, like he knows how to actually do slow where he can be. It's kind of like because, with like dark romance, the MMC is always like, they're always like so experienced and they're always for most part almost have like the BDSM type feel kind of thing. It's not full on BDSM, but like they have like the little kinks and stuff.
Yeah.
So then when you do actually do the slow, it's like he does have a heart for me, kind of like
Yeah.
he does
Yeah.
have something like it's when they actually figure out that they are in love without saying I love you kind of thing. Which is in here, I'm glad they actually told each other I love you, because that's when you kind of like realize, oh, they actually are in love. They're not just like friends, even though you know that Graham is kind of like more into it than her.
Yeah. She had to come to the realization that he's really the one she wants and not Justin.
Yeah. She wasn't just like, oh, I'm just gonna get that like one night stand out of the way and then be comfortable by the time I get to Justin, kind of. Because that's what she pretty much said. Like when she told him, it's like, hey, can we just like have sex? That way, like I'm prepared when I go to the other guy.
Awful.
That's how she did. How she kind of like framed it. Like so, it's kind of like okay, he was more into it once they actually started being intimate. You can tell that he felt more. And I think that's why he kept stopping it. Like, no, let's not. You're not ready yet, kind of thing. Yeah. Because I think he was already getting in his feelings, and she was just like, "No, let's do it. Let's just get it over it." Kind of thing. I mean, at one
thing though, for see the female character being like a guy.
I think at one point she almost like she froze, kind of thing. But I think she was forcing her. And that's what I'm saying. It's like you can tell she's ready, but she's like, her body was trying to catch up with what she's doing. Yeah. And I think that's why he was stopping it, it was fine. But as a reason when you're like at the 50% mark, it's like, let's get some action. They weren't making out or anything. There's no like kiss or anything in there. I mean, they finally made out when he was like trying to like get her comfortable. But like, I need more than that, like 50%. I need something in there. Especially when people are like, oh, this is hot. And then I'm like, I need to like quit believing other people's spice scale. And just like I can't.
Well, the good news is our next book review is we just went from 0 to 100. So
we can't say what it is.
Huh? What did you say?
We can't say what it is, what book it is.
No, I'm not saying it. I'm just saying it's 0 to 100, so we'll be ready for that. So it's safe to say that this is more my thing. This is more my thing, and I appreciate you taking one for the team on this one. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up on this book?
Nothing.
I think we've covered it all. I think we beat this.
I feel like I hope that I didn't come off or sound like I was bashing this book.
It was enjoyable for you, but it's not your preference. For me,
no.
sometimes what I like.
Yeah, I wouldn't like read them back to back.
Yeah, well, I know.
Well, okay, in my defense too, I was reading Rena Kent in between this.
Yeah.
So like going from Rena Kent, second generation, to this, it's gonna be hard. It's just hard.
Yeah, I can turn it off, and that's
I can. It's because, and I was like, and I even tell you, like, I was loving the Legacy of God, so I was just like reading them back to back because they were so enjoyable, even though they're like thick books, thicker than the first generation series. So, but that's another story. Right.
Well, I think let's wrap this one up in a bow. This is the end of the episode of our book review for The Deal by Elle Kennedy. Thanks for listening, and be sure to check us out on our socials and subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any new episodes. If you have any authors that you would like to see on the podcast, you can DM us on our Instagram page at Unfiltered Romance Nights. That's it. See you next time.
Bye.